Some people see a stranger and wave, others call the cops. It was a scorching July afternoon, the kind where the air shimmers, and the only relief is a dip in cool water. I just moved into my dream home in Willow Grove, a fancy suburban neighborhood with manicured lawns and nosy neighbors. The house came with a sparkling pool, my personal oasis. I'm Mia, 29, single, and recently cashed out a tech startup to afford this place. Most folks here are older, richer, and way more uptight, but I figured I'd keep to myself and enjoy my slice of paradise. My first week was bliss. I'd slip into a bikini, grab a lemonade, and lounge by the pool, soaking up the sun. The backyard was private, fenced off with tall hedges, shielding me from prying eyes. Or so I thought. That's when I met Karen. Karen lived next door, a 50-something woman with a perm so tight it could double as a helmet. She had a reputation. The kind of person who'd report your dog for barking at 6 p.m. or lecture kids for skateboarding. I'd heard whispers about her from the moving crew, but I didn't expect to become her target so soon. It started with glares. I'd catch her peeking over the fence, her eyes narrowing like I was some intruder. I'd wave, she'd huff and disappear. Then came the notes, one taped to my mailbox. "This is a respectable neighborhood. Dress appropriately." I laughed it off. I was in my own backyard in a swimsuit, not parading down Main Street, but Karen wasn't laughing. To her, I wasn't a homeowner. I was a problem. The trouble really kicked off on a Saturday. I was sprawled on my lounge chair, sunglasses on, music humming softly from my speaker. The pool glittered like a jewel, and I was halfway through a true crime podcast when I heard it, a sharp, deliberate throat clearing. I lifted my sunglasses. There was Karen standing at the edge of my fence, arms crossed, her face twisted like she'd bitten into a lemon. "Young lady," she barked, "this isn't a public park. Who let you in here?" I blinked, confused. I live here. This is my house." She scoffed loud enough to startle a bird from a nearby tree. "Don't lie to me. I've lived here 15 years. I know every homeowner, and you're not one of them. You're some drifter sneaking into private property." I sat up, torn between laughter and irritation. "Karen, right? I'm Mia. I bought this place last month. Check the records if you don't believe me." Her eyes narrowed. "I don't need records. I know a trespasser when I see one. You're probably squatting, waiting to rob someone." She whipped out her phone, jabbing at the screen. "I'm calling the HOA. They'll deal with you." I shrugged, figuring she'd embarrass herself when the HOA confirmed my ownership. But Karen wasn't done. Over the next few days, she escalated. She'd bang on the fence whenever I was outside, shouting about vagrants ruining the neighborhood. She left more notes, each nastier than the last. "Get out before you're arrested, and this is a decent community, not a homeless camp." I started keeping them, sensing this wasn't just a misunderstanding. Then came the rumors. I overheard two neighbors at the mailbox whispering about that girl who's crashing in the Johnsons' old house. Karen had been busy spreading lies that I was a squatter, maybe even a criminal. I confronted her one morning as she watered her roses. "Karen, stop telling people I don't belong here. I've got the deed, the mortgage, everything." "Back off," she smirked, not even looking up. "Prove it, sweetheart. Until then, I'm watching you." That's when I noticed her Ring camera pointed directly at my backyard. She'd been recording me sunbathing, swimming, living my life. It gave me the creeps, but I didn't want to stoop to her level. I covered my side of the fence with a tarp and hoped she'd get bored. She didn't. By midweek, the HOA president, a tired-looking guy named Tom, knocked on my door. "Mia, I'm sorry, but Karen's filed a complaint. Says you're not the owner and you're disturbing the peace." Disturbing the peace. By using my own pool, I showed him my closing documents, and he sighed clearly, fed up with Karen's antics. "You're fine, Mia. I'll handle it." But Karen wasn't the type to be handled. She doubled down, leaving voicemails on my phone. How she got my number, I'll never know, warning me to leave before things get ugly. I started feeling like a prisoner in my own home. I checked the windows before going outside, worried she'd be lurking. My friends thought it was hilarious. You've got your own personal Karen, but it wasn't funny anymore. I loved my house, my pool, my fresh start. I wasn't going to let her ruin it. But I also wasn't ready for how far she'd go. The breaking point came on a blistering Sunday afternoon. I was determined to reclaim my peace, so I put on my favorite blue bikini, grabbed a towel, and headed to the pool. I'd barely dipped my toes in the water when I heard the unmistakable screech of Karen's voice from her side of the fence. "That's it. I'm done with this nonsense," she shouted. I glanced over to see her on her phone pacing like a caged animal. "Yes, 911. There's a trespasser at 24 Willow Grove. She's been sneaking into the backyard for weeks pretending she lives here. I'm scared for my safety." My stomach dropped. She wasn't calling the HOA this time. She was calling the cops. I stood frozen water lapping at my ankles as her voice carried over the fence. "Hurry, please. She could be dangerous. Dangerous." I was holding a floaty and a Diet Coke. Within minutes, I heard sirens. I wrapped a towel around myself and hurried to the front yard, where two police officers were stepping out of their cruiser. Karen was already there, gesturing wildly, her face redder than her tacky flamingo lawn ornaments. A small crowd of neighbors had gathered, drawn by the commotion, whispering behind their hands. "There she is." Karen pointed at me like I was a fugitive. "That's the girl. She's been loitering, probably casing the place to rob it." The older officer, a guy with a gray mustache, raised a hand. "Ma'am, calm down. Let's get this sorted." He turned to me, his expression neutral but wary. "Miss, can you explain why you're here?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm Mia Carter. I own this house. I moved in last month. This woman's been harassing me because she doesn't believe I belong here." Karen snorted. "Own it, please. She's barely 30, dressed like a beach bum. Look at her. She's clearly homeless or squatting. I've seen her lounging by the pool like she's on vacation." The younger officer raised an eyebrow, glancing at my towel and flip-flops. I could tell they were skeptical, not of Karen, but of me. My heart raced. I'd never dealt with cops before, and the way Karen was spinning her story made me sound like a con artist. "Can you show us some ID and proof of residence?" the older officer asked. "Of course," I said, motioning toward the house. "It's inside. Can I go get it?" They nodded and I led them through the front door, Karen trailing behind like she was auditioning for a reality show. The neighbors stayed outside, craning their necks to watch. In my office, I pulled out my driver's license, the deed, and a stack of utility bills with my name on them. The officers reviewed the documents, their faces softening as they realized I wasn't some random intruder, but Karen wasn't backing down. "Those could be fake," she snapped. "She's probably forged them. I'm telling you, I've lived here forever, and I know who belongs. She doesn't." The older officer sighed, handing me back my ID. "Ma'am, these look legitimate. Miss Carter, do you have anything else to confirm your story?" That's when it hit me, my ace in the hole. "Actually, I do." I grabbed my laptop and pulled up my security camera footage. I'd installed cameras after Karen's creepy ring stunt, and they'd recorded everything: her banging on the fence, yelling insults, even her pointing that camera into my yard. I played a clip from 2 days ago where she screamed, "You're not fooling anyone, you little tramp. Get out of our neighborhood." The officers watched, their jaws tightening. Karen's face went from smug to pale. That's not relevant," she stammered. "I was protecting the community." "Protecting it by harassing a homeowner," I shot back, finally losing my cool. "You've been stalking me, spreading lies, and now you've wasted these officers' time with your nonsense." The younger officer turned to Karen. "Ma'am, do you have any evidence to support your claims?" Karen sputtered, clutching her phone. I saw her. She doesn't act like she belongs. She's always half naked by that pool." The older officer rubbed his temple. "So your evidence is—" "She sunbathes in her own backyard." The crowd outside murmured, and I caught a few stifled laughs. Karen's credibility was crumbling, and she knew it, but I wasn't done. I turned to the neighbors, raising my voice. "Since Karen's so eager to air this out, let's clear things up. I'm Mia. I bought this house fair and square, and I'm tired of her lies. If anyone else has a problem with me living here, say it now." Silence. A few neighbors looked away, embarrassed. One woman, Mrs. Patel from across the street, spoke up. "Mia's been nothing but kind, Karen. You've gone too far this time." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. The officers exchanged a glance. Then the older one spoke. "Ms. Carter." "You're free to go, ma'am," he said to Karen. "False reports are a serious matter. We'll need to discuss this further." As the officers escorted a fuming Karen back to her house, the neighbors started to disperse, some offering me apologetic nods. I stood there, adrenaline pumping, feeling a mix of triumph and exhaustion. I'd won this round, but the war with Karen wasn't over yet. The fallout from that Sunday showdown spread faster than gossip at a church picnic. By Monday morning, Willow Grove was buzzing. Karen's dramatic 911 call had backfired spectacularly, and the neighborhood's group chat, "Yes, we had one," was lit up with memes and snarky comments. Someone posted a blurry photo of Karen yelling at the cops, captioned, "When you call the police but end up the suspect, I didn't join in. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't satisfying." Karen went quiet for a few days, her blinds drawn, her flamingo ornaments mysteriously missing from her lawn. I heard from Mrs. Patel that the police had given her a stern warning about filing false reports. The HOA also sent her a letter citing disruptive behavior and threatening fines if she kept harassing residents. For the first time since I'd moved in, I felt like I could breathe. I decided to take back my pool in style. That weekend, I invited a few neighbors over for a barbecue, Mrs. Patel, Tom from the HOA, and a young couple down the street who'd apologized for believing Karen's rumors. We laughed, swam, and grilled burgers, the music loud enough to drown out any lingering tension. My backyard felt like mine again. Not a battleground, but Karen wasn't completely gone. A week later, I caught her watching me from her upstairs window as I floated on a pool raft. No yelling, no notes, just a cold, defeated stare. I raised my lemonade glass in a mock toast and smiled. She yanked the curtain shut. Maybe she'd learned her lesson, or maybe she was just biding her time. Either way, I wasn't scared anymore. The neighborhood started to change after that. People waved when they saw me, and a few even stopped by to chat. Mrs. Patel brought me homemade samosas, and Tom invited me to the next HOA meeting, saying they needed fresh perspectives. I wasn't sure if I was ready to dive into suburban politics, but it felt good to be seen as a neighbor, not an outsider. Reflecting on it all, I realized Karen's outburst wasn't just about me. She was clinging to control, to her idea of what Willow Grove should be, and I didn't fit her mold. Her mistake was thinking she could bully me out of my home. Instead, she'd united the neighborhood not against me, but against her brand of petty tyranny. I still sunbathe by my pool most days, my bikini collection growing bolder just to spite her. The tarp on the fence is gone, and I've added fairy lights to make the backyard feel even more like a sanctuary. If Karen's still watching, she's keeping it to herself, and if she ever tries to start trouble again, I've got my security footage, my deed, and a whole neighborhood that's got my back. The end.